When we talk about disasters, one of the most obvious events that comes to mind for U.S. citizens is the tragedy of 9/11. As one of the worst terror attacks on our country, a lot of the legislation and emergency planning that exists today is because of the effects of this attack. But have any of you ever wondered what the worst day in the country was like for the people at the happiest place on earth? On September 11th, 2001, my parents' twin sister and I were in the Magic Kingdom. Being only a few years old, I don't recall the events, but it's a story that my parents told for years. My parents knew about the 9/11 attack because of a phone call from family members, but most people in the park didn't know what was going on. My dad recalls that a lot of the characters were acting strangely, and that the entire park was eerily quiet. This was due to the fact that jets were grounded at the nearby airport. Around noon, an announcement came over the speakers saying that the park was closing. My parents said that everyone remained very calm during the entire evacuation period. Characters and uniformed officers led people to the correct gates, and everyone was on a bus away from Disney within an hour. According to the Huffington Post interview with the Disney employees, everyone was forbidden from telling the guests what was going on unless they specifically asked, and they say this helped create a calm atmosphere during the evacuation. Unlike what Schneider details in dealing with disaster, the emergent human norms after 9/11 in Disney World did not gap much from the regular societal norms, and this was most likely due to the lack of information that the guests had. Even if no one in the park had all the details, my dad says it felt like everyone just knew it had to happen and that the best thing to do at the moment was to go home. In times of disaster, large tourist destinations like Disney have plans in place to respond, and the park's emergency plan is as easy as ABC. There are 3 levels of emergency response that Disney has planned for. First, Plan A, accelerated closure, which is what plan the park followed on September 11th. The Disney Safety Training book says this is much like a regular park closure where everyone can go out the established exit gates. The calm and understanding behavior of the guests contributed to the efficiency of this choice in the emergency plan. Plan B, or best route/backstage, is more along the lines of emergency evacuation strategy. The situation decides which exits will be used, and employees are informed by radio calls which exits to direct guests to. And finally, Plan C, or common area. This plan means that the level of hazard does not allow for evacuation, and the only course of action is to move all the guests to a common area and take cover. This plan is mostly used in response to natural disasters. Because of events like 9/11, many large tourist destinations have been forced to implement emergency plans for terrorist attacks. Making the tourism industry safer for guests is very important, so next time you're on vacation, make sure you do your part by making sure that you know the expectations in case of emergency. Thank you for listening.